Today is Wednesday, Parashat Lecha. We're learning the halacha pesuka from Chok L'Yisrael. Shemona ma'alot yesh b'tzedaka zu lema'ala mizu. There are 8 levels in charity, each higher than the next. In other words, 8 levels of the best way to give charity. Ma'ala gdola she'en lema'ala mimena, the highest level, that there is nothing above it. המחזיק ביד ישראל, המח ונותן לו מתנה או הלוואה או עושה שותפות. It's a person who strengthens the hands of someone who's down, gives him a gift or a loan, makes a partnership with him, or ממציא לו מלאכה, or finds him a job. כדי לחזק ידו, in order to strengthen him, שלא יצטרך להביא יד, that he shouldn't need the assistance of others. ולא ישאל, and he doesn't have to ask for help. In other words, you help him to have a profession, you help him to give him maybe some inventory to sell and make some profit, you give him a gift or a loan, you're putting him in a position where he can earn on his own, or he can pay you back the loan when he's able to. You protect his self-esteem. And on this it says in the Torah, and you strengthen him. So that's the highest level. Second level, just below that. פחות מזה הנותן צדקה לעני, ולא ידע למי ייתן ולא ידע אני מי מקבל, וקרוב לזה הנותן לקופה של צדקה. So he says, just one level below that is if you give to charity, and you don't know who's the recipient, and the recipient of the charity doesn't know who gave it to him. It's done in a way that is anonymous. And therefore, this is something that is also a high level of charity. And one way to accomplish that is to give to kupav tzedakah, to a charity organization. אלא אם כן, יודע שהממונה עליה נאמן ויודע לנהוג בה כשורה. When you give it to a charity organization, you don't know who's the final recipient of that charity. The person doesn't know who the money came from. But one thing you have to make sure is the charity is reputable, that the people in charge of the charity organization are people who do things properly and honestly, and that they help the proper way to help those in need. One level below that, פחות מזה, שיודע נותן למי נותן ולא יודע אני מי לוקח. כגון גדולי החכמים, שהולכים בסתר ומשליכים המעות בפתחי העניים, וכזה ראוי לעשות ומעלה טובעים, אין הממונים של הצדקה נוהגים כשורה. So one level below that is when you give assistance to someone who doesn't know who the assistance came from. And the way to do it is they used to do it before, to come to the door of somebody who's in need and drop there some money or slide it under the door, an envelope under the door. In other words, the person who gets the assistance has no idea who it came from. And it suggests here that's one way to give charity, when the charity organization is one that you cannot rely on to do things properly. One level below that, when you're at the 4th level, פחות מזה שיודע אני ממי נוטל ויודע נותן למי נותן, כגון החכמים שהיו צורים המעות בסדיניהם ומשליכים אותם לאחוריהם ובאים העניים ונותנים כדי שלא יהיה להם בושה. So one level below that is when the poor person knows who's the person that's given him the assistance, and the one who gave doesn't know who he gave it to. And he gives an example here of how it was done in previous times, when they used to, a person would go in a city, let's say in a street where there were people at need, and he would have money behind him, and he would just drop some money behind. He doesn't see who's going to collect, and therefore the one who's collecting has noticed who the person who dropped that money, but the one who gave it doesn't know who's the final recipient of it. Less than that, now we go down one level. שייתן לידו בידו קודם שישאל. When you give the person in need directly, but you give it to him before he asks for it. Many times it's very obvious that a person is in need of assistance. Are you staying aloof and insensitive, or are you taking action? Before he even asks, because it's embarrassing for a person to ask for assistance. You give him before he even asks, that's one level below. Now we go down one level again. That's now the 6th level. פחות מזה שייתן לו כראוי אחר שישאל. That's when you give someone, after he's asked for assistance, the amount that really he needs. One level before that, פחות מזה שייתן לו פחות מהראוי בסבר פנים יפות. The seventh level, now we had the seventh level going down. When you give him less than really he needs $100, you give him only 20. And you could afford to give 100, but you give him only less than what he needs. And you do it בסבר פנים יפות, with a good attitude, with a smile, with an encouraging attitude. פחות מזה, and lower than that, שייתן לו בעצב, that he gives it to him, but in a grudging way, grudgingly. He gives it like with a bad attitude. Okay, you've helped the person, but you did it with the wrong approach, and that's something that it could be even hurtful to the person who's receiving the assistance. So that would be the lowest level of these 8 levels that we mentioned here. Now the Rama adds another comment here. ועל כל פנים לא דיו כן, על כל פנים לא יתפאר האדם בצדקה שנותן. In any case, a person should not boast and brag about the charity that he gives. ומתפאר, if he's going to be bragging about it, לא דיו שאינו מקבל שכר. Not only is not rewarded for the charity that he gave, אלא אפילו מענישים אותו. He's punished because of it. Boasting and bragging about it. Mikol makom, however, with that being said, if someone mishim makdish davar litzdaka, if someone dedicates something to charity, let's say it's a school building and you give a large donation and they wanted to name the building after you, mutar lo shichtov shemo alav. It's permitted to write. He's allowed to write his name on it. Sheyeh lo lezikaron, so you'll be for remembrance for him. V'ra'ui la'asot ken, and it's proper to do so. So even though in charity we try to be always discreet and anonymous in general, but it is proper, according to the Rambam, to put your name on a donation to a building, on a donation to something that will be remembered, and also, in a way, as an added comment, it encourages others also to support organizations of Torah, etc. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen.